Hi, my name is Cameron Jackson, and this is my OSHA number 3, an interview over the topic of immigration. Should immigration policy in the United States be more restrictive in the interest of national security, economic fairness, and the protection of American citizens? Immigration has been a defining topic in American society, often sparking debates about fairness, safety, culture, and economic stability. While some people believe that immigration benefits our country in terms of diversity and labor, others feel it may strain resources or create safety concerns. Today I'll be speaking with my mom, who believes immigration policies should be stricter and more enforced. I personally lean more towards finding a balanced approach, so I'm interested in learning more about the values and life experiences that have shaped her beliefs. We both have experienced the same thing since I was born, but she has always given me the choice to believe what I want and have my own opinion. Being able to dive deeper into conversation about why she feels the way she does should help me gain a new perspective. Okay, so for my first question, I'm going to go ahead and start with, if someone enters the U.S. illegally but works, pays taxes, and contributes to society, should they be allowed to stay?
In my opinion, no. In my opinion, even if they're working and they're being productive members of society, they should do it the right way. They should come here legally only.
I agree with that policy. My next question is going to be, do you think immigrations take away opportunities from American citizens or contribute in a helpful way?
I actually think it's a little bit of both, but I do think that in more ways than one, they do take away opportunities from American citizens. Our employment numbers are really high in the United States. Unemployment numbers are really high in the United States, and some of those jobs could be filled by Americans that are being filled by illegal immigrants currently.
I can see what you mean by that. So you think that there are jobs that need to be fulfilled, but they should still be here the right way and do it legally and then fulfill those jobs?
That's correct. I think that even if they're here to work or study or whatever, it should still be done via legal means always.
I can see what you mean. My third question is going to be, if you had the power to change one thing about the immigration policy, what would it be and why?
If I had the means to change the policy, it would be probably to make the legal immigration status, the process quicker for people who are trying to become legal citizens the right and legal way. It does take a very long time right now, the way things are, for illegal immigrants to become legal, and it's a lot of loopholes that they have to jump through, and a lot of paperwork and that sort of thing. I do wish it was a little bit more of a streamlined process so that people who are coming here to try to do things the right way, and they want to come here to better their life, they want to come here to work and raise a family, I wish it wasn't so difficult for the people who are trying to do it the right way.
I do believe that if we had a less busy process, a less hard process, that we would have the right immigrants in the country, so I can see what you mean by that. My fourth question is going to be, how do you feel about children and families being separated at the border as part of the immigration enforcement?
Well, I hate the thought of children being separated from their parents or families being separated at the border. It absolutely is heartbreaking, and it shouldn't happen. But if people were coming here legally and doing things the right way, then they wouldn't have to worry about being separated from their family at the border or anywhere else.
I see what you're saying. While I was researching this project, I did find that they do get separated and then they get placed into not very good foster care. And so possibly reinforcing the foster care system in the United States would also help with that issue, so that they had better sources available to them if they did get separated from their parents.
I agree. If the foster care system was a little bit more beefed up, a little bit more regulated maybe, or if there's more resources for those willing to foster, then it might be less heartbreaking to think of families being separated over immigration issues.
I totally understand that. My fifth question is going to be, what role do you think media and politics play in shaping public opinion about immigration?
I am one that believes that the media does a really good job of influencing people's opinions, whether they're the right opinions or wrong opinions, or right or wrong the way they're presenting it. They do a really good job at changing people's minds and swaying people one way or another. So I feel like whatever the media is saying a lot of times is what people tend to decide to agree with, whether they originally felt that way or not, just because they're hearing it and seeing it every day on TV, on the internet, even in their mailboxes. The media tends to sway people the way they want to.
I can see what you mean by that. Do you feel as if there's certain news broadcasting systems that sway over others compared to others?
I do think that there are some networks, several networks, that do sway one way versus other networks that go another way. Yes.
So you believe that the media tends to exaggerate or politicize immigration, which causes people to form opinions based on fear or misbelief.
I do think that a lot of what they do is fear mongering. A lot of what they do is push a narrative, and they'll do whatever it takes in their power, whether it's even completely true or not. They do whatever it takes in their power to sway people one way or another.
I wanted to circle back on on the question about the process of children being split up and everything like that. Do you think that the overall thing that we need to fix would just be the process of getting here legally? Do you think that if that was fixed, everything else would change?
I do think that that's a huge part of it. I do think that if the process was better, more efficient, and not so lengthy, we would have a better situation in terms of having people who want to come here legally, who are able to be here illegally and stay here illegally for the right reasons. But the process right now is out of control, it's antiquated, it's not efficient, and it's just hard for people.
Okay. When thinking about immigration, do you prioritize emotional concerns like compassion or logical ones like economic impact, and why?
While I am a compassionate person, and there is a lot of compassion to be had in these situations, I am more of a practical person and more of a person who looks at solid facts and economic facts, and that's what shapes how I feel about this whole thing.
Is equality something that should apply to immigrants the same way it does to citizens?
I know that this is a controversial question, but I don't think that if you're here illegally, that the rights are the same for you as they are for legal citizens of the United States.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you feel that while compassion is important, policies still need to be based on what's best for the country's economy and long-term stability. Is that right?
That is right. I do believe that even though I want to be compassionate and I do have sympathy for people who are going through these issues and having to walk through this process, I do still think that we have to look at what's logical and what's black and white, what's literal in front of us, and look at how it affects our country as a whole, rather than making decisions based on emotions.
Understandable. Were your views on immigration shaped more by your upbringing, your life experiences, or something else?
I would say actually a combination of all three. My upbringing was a lot to do with it. I think most people's upbringing has a lot to do with the adults that they become. Situations, yes, I worked in a school system where the population was 85% a different ethnicity, and of those students, I was working with teens specifically who were pregnant and parenting in high school, and I loved my job, but a lot of those kids were here working illegally. They would go down to a known place in town and buy a fake social security number so that they could work and not pay taxes. And there were other abuses of the system that I could list as well, in terms of misuse of Medicaid, food programs for young mothers and that sort of thing, that because they were illegal immigrants, they didn't technically qualify for, but they would lie and cheat and use whatever means possible so that they could have those services, even though they weren't legal citizens at the time.
Well, Mom, you have really expanded my perspective on immigration and the entire process behind it. Today, I learned that your stance on immigration is noted in values like safety, responsibility, and economic fairness, especially since you have kids of your own. You believe that the current system needs more control and that citizens should be prioritized, even if that means limiting the number of people allowed in. I now better understand how your reasoning is driven by a concern for order and fairness rather than exclusion. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate your openness and the chance to have an honest conversation about such an important issue. I have gained an entire new perspective on immigration rights and what our country should be allowing in.